Hello everyone and welcome to the episode 5 of the PvM Hub. This series aims to be a collection of beginner-friendly revolution guides teaching you how to approach all of the different bosses in RuneScape. Keep in mind that these guides will not be optimal, but simply a good starting off point for those hoping to learn bossing. This time we'll be looking at the most profitable God Wars dungeon general and Armadyll's top AVNC, Kree'arra. Kree'arra is the third of 4 God Wars Dungeon 1 generals we'll be looking at in this series. Despite looking like he is walking, he is unattackable with melee weapons, forcing us to use either mage or rage. His big draw is the tier 70 ranged power armor that he drops, with the plate body ranging upwards of 7 mil on the Grand Exchange. Once you get comfortable with this boss, farming it can be extremely easy and very profitable. As always, this guide will be broken up into a few different sections, all time-stamped in the description. Those sections will be the recommendations and requirements, setting up your revolution bar, important facts and mechanics, and then a full fight breakdown. Starting with requirements, Kree'arra is pretty simple. He requires 70 range to enter the Armadyll encampment, and then the standard either 60 strength or 60 agility to enter the God Wars dungeon. He also requires the standard 40 KC, as is required of all bosses in the God Wars dungeon. For my recommendations, I would strongly suggest that you use range here, as you'll take less damage and deal more. Continuing with that, I would recommend at least 70 range, with 80 being more optimal with a royal crossbow. But seeing as we haven't gotten to the Queen Black Dragon in this series yet, I can't recommend it, and I won't be using it. I'd recommend at least 65 defense for the armor that I'll be using, and 40 prayer to minimum for protect from range. I would strongly suggest getting 70 in both of these stats to unlock Rigor. Summoning, again, is the classic 52 for the Spirit Terror Bird, but 67 will do you much better for a War Tortoise Beast of Burden. For a setup and supplies, I would recommend around 300k. This is cheaper than the outfits we've seen for the other bosses, because the weapon will be slightly worse. If you have the money to upgrade, I would strongly suggest it. The setup I'll be bringing to this fight is full superior spined armor, an Amulet of Glory, an Archer's Ring, and the part you should consider upgrading is the Black Salamander using Haralander Tar. The spined armor can be bought in its base form off the Grand Exchange, and then you will need 5 Fremnik equipment patch, which can all be bought off the Grand Exchange for about 20k each. For my Armadyll item, I will be bringing the Book of Law from the Horror of the Deep quest. Some extra recommendations would be the Totem of Intimidation, which allows you to skip getting KC completely, and the Shard of Zeros, which will make all creatures in the God Wars dungeon non-aggressive towards you. I would also recommend one of the following auras if you have them, but they are definitely not required. These would be Reckless, the Majorat aura, Penance, and Vampirism. Now, let's talk about your Revolution bar. If you're unfamiliar with Revolution, it's a system in RuneScape that will automatically use your abilities for you. To take advantage of that, we put our strongest abilities furthest left so they get used more often, and we weave in our threshold abilities which require 50% adrenaline. Above is an ideal Revolution bar suggested by the PvM Encyclopedia, and below is my version of the same bar, but without any of the expensive or hard to get unlocks. Their bar from left to right reads Fragmentation Shot, Corruption Shot, Snapshot, Rapid Fire, Needle Strike, Snipe, Death Swiftness, Binding Shot, Tuska's Wrath, Binding Shot again, and Piercing Shot, with the abilities not in the Revolution setup being Shadow Tendrils, Bombardment, and Dead Shot. The bar I will be using in this guide will be Fragmentation Shot, Dazing Shot, Snipe, Snapshot, Rapid Fire, Binding Shot, Ricochet, Bombardment, Dead Shot, and Piercing Shot. For abilities not in the bar, I'll suggest Devotion and Debilitate. For the fight itself, there are only a few things to know. Kree'arra will use any of the 3 combat styles to hit you, but range will be the most damaging and most frequent, so we'll be using Protect from range at all times. Kree'arra will occasionally push you back as well, cancelling any channeled abilities such as Rapid Fire. To avoid our DPS being interrupted, and to stop this mechanic completely, we'll simply just stand in this corner right here and pretend that it never happened. Since we can't be knocked in any direction, we are safe from being pushed, and honestly, that's it. There are some fancy strategies you could do, like trying to prayer flick all of his different attacks, but the reward for the amount of effort put in there is definitely not worth it in my opinion. You can choose to use Debilitate and Devotion to reduce the amount of damage you take per kill, and you can manually activate your Threshold and Ultimate abilities to try and end the fight quicker, but there are no other mechanics you need to react to. Since there aren't very many mechanics to worry about, let's talk a bit about ranged DPS. In the basic set of ranged abilities, there are two abilities which are considered channeled. That means they don't go off instantly, or they go off over a certain amount of time. Those abilities are Rapid Fire and Snipe. If you cancel both of these abilities at just the right time, they will still go off and you'll get an extra hit in much faster. For the Rapid Fire ability, you want to cancel it with your second ability manually as this countdown timer reaches 2, as seen on screen. With Snipe, it's a bit trickier. You want to use an ability to cancel it just as the 2 is about to change into a 1. Doing this will allow you to have higher DPS, which means shorter kill times, which means less supplies used. Knowing this, let's put it all together and look at a full kill. Starting at War's Retreat, we will teleport to Trollheim as always, making our way down the mountain to the north. When you get to this bend, make sure you turn on Protect from Range to protect yourself from the thrower trolls on the cliff. Make your way over to the boulder and use either the Agility or Strength shortcut to get through. Once through, make sure you turn on Protect from Melee to protect yourself from the wolves. If this is your first time ever to the God Wars dungeon, make sure you bring a rope to use on this hole. Then head south to this broken bridge right here and focus the Avian Seas. If you're using the Zamorak cape from our previous video, you should be mostly safe on the left hand side, and if you have a Saradomin item, you should be safe on the right hand side. Avian Seas will occasionally drop swordfish, which you can pick up and use to restore your supplies while getting kill count. Here I have obviously sped up getting kill counts, but with Armadillo it took me about 6 to 7 minutes. You can see that I'm using Protect from Range the whole time. This is fine because I've brought 3 prayer potions, so I should have no problems doing the rest of my kills while using prayer. Once I get 40, I jump across the bridge and head up into the room. Here, I use my prayer potion to get my prayer back to full, and I drink both my ranging and defense potion. When I enter the fight, I turn on Protect from Range and tag Armadillo while standing in this one spot. I'll let Revolution do the work, but I will occasionally manually cancel my Snipe and Rapid Fire abilities like we talked about earlier. Here I use Debilitate to try and lessen the damage that Kree'arra will do to me over the fight. Right after that wears off, I use Devotion to further enhance my protection against range. It's also important to note with this fight I am not using Rigor. If you have 70 prayer, that will be a major upgrade for you, and I would strongly suggest using it. You can see at this point I have also used Debilitate for a second time in this fight, because it has taken over 30 seconds. And I continue to trigger my threshold abilities manually whenever I see fit to do so. Once Kree'arra goes down, I'm going to immediately switch my focus to the melee minion, and then I will switch between either the mage or the ranged minion, as both of them shouldn't deal very much damage to me. With that kill done, we can now attune a portal at War's Retreat to get here much quicker the next time. We learned a little bit about ranged DPS, and we have taken down 3 of the 4 God Wars dungeon generals. I really hope that you enjoyed this guide. If it was helpful, please let me know by leaving a thumbs up, and if you find more than one of my videos helpful, please consider subscribing. I release videos every Friday and Monday, and I stream every Monday night. My plan is to help out whoever shows up with whatever bossing they would like to do, so if that sounds interesting to you, come check it out at twitch.tv/Zingy09. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Zingy out.